a couple of starting questions. Are there some persons here that are not familiar with who is Queen Kunti and needs a little introduction to who is Queen Kunti? You're looking over your shoulder at your friend. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I've heard about her, but I don't know.
Too much. Okay. We're going to be talking about her, so let's do a little background. There's some very simple things. You know who is Krishna, and you know who is Arjuna, right? So Arjuna had a mother, and mother's name was Kunti, Queen Kunti. And Kunti had 5 sons. Actually, she had 6 sons, but she had 5 sons, Pandavas. They're called the Pandavas because her husband was Pandu, and the sons are called Pandavas. Pandu died when the boys were just teenagers, kind of powerful young teenagers. And they were, because Pandu, he was the king, but he liked being in the countryside more than he liked being in a big royal palace. And so they were living in the countryside. And when he died, Kunti didn't know what to do. She's got 5 strapping boys and no one as a protector and guide. So she asked her spiritual master, Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva? Vyasadeva is the compiler of all the Vedas. The Vedas, you know. Okay. So they were in a sound form or spoken teacher to student. Vyasadeva wrote them from a sound form into a written form. He compiled the Vedas perfectly. And he was there, he is an incarnation, a literary incarnation of Krishna. So Vyasadeva advised them, you can't stay here in the countryside, you have to go back to the royal palace. So they did. Kunti went with her 5 strapping young boys back to the royal palace. And everything was nice until it got not nice. There's always a problem, right? So where it started to go messy was, of the 5 brothers, one of them was really powerful, and his name was Bhima. So boys will be boys, and they would play. Sometimes they would wrestle, and when Bhima would wrestle, he'd throw the other boys in the air. And they had cousin brothers. The cousin brothers were 100 in number. There's a long story of how that happened. But the eldest of those 100 brothers couldn't take it. He couldn't take it. He wanted to kill Bhima, his cousin. So coming up, I think it'll be this evening, he had murder plot number 1, murder plot number 2, and he's a diabolical fellow. He's got it, and his name was Duryodhana. Duryodhana. So when I say his name, I'll say it in that tone. Duryodhana. After some time, it escalated and escalated and escalated and escalated and escalated. And it looked like there was going to be a war between their cousins, cousin brothers, and some other people on this side and some other people on that side, but it was mainly the cousin brothers. Krishna volunteered, or Krishna was requested to try to make a peace settlement before the war. And there was no peace settlement because Duryodhana said, no way. I can't live on the same planet with those five. It's them or me. There's going to be war. So there was a war. And the war was held in a sacred place. Kurukshetra is a sacred place. And sometimes good things and sometimes wars happen at Kurukshetra. And at the end, at the end of 18 days, Kunti's sons were victorious, and they all lived happily ever after. No, there was some other intrigue that happened after that. Yudhishthira, her eldest of the five brothers, was enthroned on the royal seat. All the other enemies were taken care of during the battle. There's many things that happened before. This is what I'm narrating is from a big book, like big one, A History of Greater India, Mahabharata. You've heard that term? Okay. So what I'm narrating is like little smidgens from Mahabharata. And it blends into Srimad Bhagavatam, which is this, because Krishna stayed for a while after the Kurukshetra battle was over to reassure the security of the kingdom and show his friendship for the Pandavas, which was very strong. I mean, it wasn't just like, I'll scratch your back, you scratch my back kind of friendship. These are eternal associates of Krishna, and he protects his devotees as he protected them. We'll hear from Kunti's prayers coming up. So the scene is that Krishna had come all the way from Dwarka to Hastinapur. Now, if you're not familiar with geography of India, that doesn't mean much. It's something like riding a chariot from New York to Los Angeles. That's a big distance. Not quite that distance, but something like that. Chariot too, not a train or a plane, it's a chariot. Not a car, chariot. So Krishna is now getting ready to go back from Hastinapur to his place because he was their guest. The royal family honored him. He's their cousin. They're like many cousins. Krishna was one of the many cousins. How are they cousins? This is just a little background to get the big picture of Kunti's prayers. Arjuna's mother was Kunti, and Kunti had a brother. Kunti was Arjuna's mother, but her brother was Vasudeva, and Vasudeva was Krishna's father. So they're like first cousins. Krishna in the chariot here, and Kunti is his father's sister or his aunt by family relation. And by devotional relation, she's looking up to him as the personality of Godhead. She knows very well he's not just her cousin. He's the personality of Godhead. That's a big deal. If your cousin was the personality of Godhead, I mean, wow. And she knew it. And she's very attached to him. She's more attached to him than either her sons or her father and the lineage from which she came, the other family members, because she was given in marriage at a certain point in time to Pandu. So that side of her family, the father's side, lived in Dwarka, that's this New York, and she's over here in Los Angeles. She's in Hastinapur. And as you see the scene, Krishna's getting on his chariot, heading back for Dwarka. And look at all those people behind her. There's a mass of people because they're all Krishna's devotees. Then there's like the special, and then there's a special, and she's 4 times special. She's the queen, or the mother of the king, even more so, the elder in the royal family. So she works her way through the crowd and comes right before Krishna's chariot and says everything except please don't go. But she's saying please don't go. I mean, she doesn't use those words, but she's pouring out her heart. And it's without restraint, because he's leaving. And she may never see him again, who knows? So that's the scene. There's many other nice things to say just to get... Let me do this for those devotees that have been around a while. Question. Who was Kunti's father? Starts with an S. Shurasena. Shurasena. Shurasena had a daughter, and the daughter's name was not Kunti. What was the daughter's name? Pritha. And King Shurasena had a friend. And his friend was the king of the Bhoja dynasty. And the king of the Bhoja dynasty had no children. So he asked his friend, which was something that happens sometimes, can I adopt your daughter and raise her as my daughter? And they had such affection. He trusted King Kunti Bhoja so much. He entrusted his daughter to be adopted by or raised as his daughter. So from that point, she was, in addition to being known as Pritha, she was known as Kunti, the son of Kunti Bhoja. And so there's the royal family life was privileged and, generally speaking, very close and affectionate with one another. But then there's sometimes these intrigues that happen even in royal families, and skullduggery, like attempted murder and other things that Duryodhana, one of the cousins, was up to. So many stories and histories. But she's going to miss Krishna. So there she is, standing before his chariot. He's wearing a garland of lotus flowers. He's offering her a lotus flower. She's offering her prayers. It's a loving exchange in very elevated terms. So we can sing. There's some recordings. And the first recording is the invocation mantra that we find at the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. And if technology cooperates, I'll show it to you. There we go. And there's some music along with chanting, and the person who's singing is Sri Rupa. She has some friends, and they're doing some music in the background. So there's several verses we'll hear twice. So you can hear and then respond. You can then witness the chorus, and then you'll hear and then respond. And there's several of these. We're going to cover 3 verses plus the invocation.
Krishna Karuna Sindhu Navando Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute
Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute.
A nice prayer to Krishna as the invocation to Bhagavad Gita. Oh, my dear Krishna, hey Krishna. Karuna Sindho, you're the friend of the distressed and the source of creation. You're the master of the gopis, Gopesha, Gopika, Kanta, and the lover of Radharani, Radha Kanta. Namostute. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you. The painting is, or was, one of the cover paintings for Teachings of Queen Kunti. Prabhupada gave lectures on all of these verses, and they were transcribed, and the transcribed form of those lectures was put into a book, and this is the cover painting. There's Kunti by the side of the river Ganges, and it's drawn from one of the prayers of her prayers, where she's saying, she's praying to Krishna, just as the Ganges flows inexorably downstream towards the sea, so also may my mind flow like the Ganges flows, but let my mind flow towards you always. Of course, that's already set in her because of her attachment and love. And what we're attached to and we love, the mind goes there. You don't have to tell the mind to go there, it just goes there. So here's a more complete painting. There are some sages in the front, the assembly in the back. Look up way up in the balcony. There's like lots of people there. So one of the outstanding characteristics, there's many, but one of the outstanding characteristics of these prayers is her humility. She speaks as if she's not very intelligent. She compares herself to those who are intelligent and says, those who are intelligent can't understand you, how am I to understand you? But she understands because of bhakti. She doesn't understand because she's a Vedantist. She's a simple and pure spirit soul in a material body of a woman. And so she's thinking of herself as not so great compared to the great. But she's great. She understands things through her prayers that reveal she understands things that the great don't understand. In the prayers that we're going to be discussing, there's this term, javanika. Javanika means a curtain. So Maya is compared in her prayers to a curtain. And the curtain covers the reality of the object. The object is Krishna. And so she sees, and she'll speak in her prayers about things that seem both contradictory and inconceivable. If he's this, he can't be that. If he's that, he can't be this. But he's this and that. How's that? I don't understand you. She understands. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead who has inconceivable potencies, and he can do this and that, although they're apparently contradictory. And she also, in this set of prayers, is going to speak about protection. Also, in the next prayer, we're going to be discussing 20, 21, and 22. So, strong emphasis on her seeing of contradictions, and within these contradictions, there's some solution. They are apparent contradictions, but the solution is this and that come from one source. That one source is Krishna, and he can move his energies this way and that way at the same time and appear to be contradictory, unless there's one possibility of understanding that which is inconceivable, and that's Krishna reveals it. And he reveals it to those who are qualified, and those who are qualified are his devotees. So we're starting 18, 19, 20. So this is the beginning of
Kunti uvacha Namasye purusham tvadyam Ishwaram prakrite param Alaksham sarvabhutanam Antarbahiravastitam Namasye purusham tvadyam Ishwaram prakrite param Alaksham sarvabhutanam Antarbahiravastitam Kunti uvacha Namasye purusham tvadyam Ishwaram prakrite param Alaksham sarvabhutanam Antarbahiravastitam Namasye purusham tvadyam Ishwaram prakrite param Alaksham sarvabhutanam Antarbahiravastitam.
O Krishna, I offer my obeisances unto you because you are the original personality and are unaffected by the qualities of the material world. You are existing both within and without everything, yet you are invisible to all. The painting, this particular painting, is showing Mahavishnu reclining on the causal ocean, and from his body are coming countless numbers of universes with his exhaling, and then with his inhaling he withdraws those universes. And all of this is taking place within a cloud of the material energy called Mahatattva. And that cloud is a cloud of energy, material energy, floating in the vastness of the spiritual sky, which is where all that light is coming from. If you look closely, you can see little planets. Those are not little planets, they're spiritual planets, Vaikuntha planets. And chief amongst those Vaikuntha planets is Krishna's abode within the spiritual sky. So he exists in the spiritual sky. He exists in the material world. He exists within every particle of matter in the material world. He's both within everything and outside of everything, and yet he's invisible. And there he is, standing in front of her. He's visible. In one sense, visible. In another sense, she's saying, I don't understand you. So I see something, but I know I don't really understand what I see. So I don't see you really. Some of the commentary connected with this verse starts with Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And the translation he has given is slightly different. I offer my respects to you, the Supreme Person, the original one, the controller, beyond the control of Prakriti, meaning all of us are controlled by material nature. He isn't controlled, he's the controller of, but he isn't controlled by. Even when he enters into this world, he's not controlled by this material world or its energy. You're unseen by material senses and existing inside and outside of all living beings, which is a different rendering of the Sanskrit of her verse, but it's perfectly accurate rendering of the Sanskrit of this verse. That's the translation. He goes on with his commentary this way. Understanding everything that Krishna had done recently, Kunti was unable to tolerate the agitation caused by the great respect that arose in her heart. Thus she began praising Krishna. Now, that's just, they're layers, and just quickly, because it's a lot to say. One of the layers is he treats Kunti like mother. It's his aunt, but he treats her like his mother. He would treat his mother because age-wise and family relation-wise, it's like that. So he's treating her with the greatest respect. And she is uncomfortable with that because she sees him as the source of everything. So you're coming to touch my feet? It's dissonant with her heart because she sees him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Within everything and outside of everything, and yet invisible or not visible to the eyes, material eyes. So she's feeling conflicted, and the flowing of that feeling conflicted comes out in the form of praise of Krishna that prevails in her mood. For those of you that have been around for a while, you know what that is. That's Aishvarya Bhav. She has the emotion of seeing the opulence of her nephew, her brother's son. And Krishna might be saying, Vishwanath says, but I'm your nephew. Why are you offering respects? And she might say, but you are the Supreme Lord, Purusham. And Krishna might say, of course I'm a Purusha, I'm a man, because that's another meaning of Purusha, is man. There's no doubt about that. Then Kunti might say, but you're the first one, Adyam Purusham. You're the original person from whom all other persons come. Krishna's reply might be, well, all bodies come and go, and all souls are original or Adyam. And Kunti might say, but you are the Supreme Ishvara. Krishna might say, well, in heaven, Swarga, Indra and the moon god, they're Ishwaras. And on earth, the kings are controllers. And Kunti might say, but you are superior to Prakriti, material nature. Am I the Purusha within Paramatma? Kunti would say, no, you are imperceptible. Alaksham. The Paramatma is subject to revelation by the use of intelligence and other means. He's just being clever. He's enjoying the words. Am I the imperceptible Brahman? Kunti, no. You are situated internally and externally. He's enjoying, like poetry, the words of Kunti and the different meanings that might be taken from the Sanskrit words of Kunti. Within this verse, there is this phrase, Alaksham Sarvabhutanam Antar, means within, Bahir means outside, inside and outside, Avastatam. Avastatam, he's situated both inside and outside. And Alaksham, all persons, Sarvabhutanam, can't see you, although you're everywhere inside and outside of everything. That's a little inexplicable, isn't it? Inside everything, outside everything, and you can't see him. There's something very similar in Bhagavad Gita. We just had Mokshada Ekadasi yesterday, and we heard a lot of nice things about Bhagavad Gita. So in Bhagavad Gita, a similar idea. It is said that one can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead through Jnana Chakshusha. Jnana means knowledge, and Chakshusha means eyes or seeing, eyes of knowledge. He who opens these eyes of knowledge is called the spiritual master. That's Prabhupada's purport. People can't see him because he is covered by his own potency. He covers himself by the agency of his own potency. What's that own potency? It's the Yogamaya potency, his spiritual potency. Ordinary people can't see him, they can't understand him. And that's text 18. You ready for text 19? Here's text 19. Here's this, see in the first line, Javanika. Javanika. That's the Maya Javanika, the curtain of Maya.
Maya Javanika Chandam Agyadhoksha Jamavyayam Nalakshase Mudadrisha Nagadharo Yatha Maya Javanika Chandam Agyadhoksha Jamavyayam Nalakshase Mudadrisha Nagadharo Yatha Maya Javanika Chandam Agyadhoksha Jamavyayam Nalakshase Mudadrisha Nato Natya Dharo Yatha Maya Javanika Chandam Agyadhoksha Jamavyayam Nalakshase Mudadrisha Nato Natya Dharo Yatha.
So he, Adhoksaja, is one of the names of Krishna. He is Adhoksaja, means the Aksaja, the seeing power, the eye's capacity to see. He's beyond. We can't be seen. Beyond the range of limited sense perception, you are the eternally irreproachable factor covered by a curtain of diluting energy. You are invisible to the foolish observer exactly as an actor dressed as a player is not recognized. So sometimes in drama, people wear costumes. And sometimes the people even wearing the costumes can't recognize each other, what to speak of the people in the audience. And so he's performing pastimes or a leela, or he's an actor on a stage, and because ordinary people can't understand him, but persons who know, the drama, they know the script, and more importantly, they know he's operating the way that he's operating through the agency of his own internal potency. And therefore, they don't take the surface, they take what's beyond the surface. Their potencies, Maya Shakti and Atma Maya, or spiritual potency, this material potency and spiritual potency. And Maya Shakti specifically means the power to delude people. It's a nice painting, and it shows the deluding power is manifested in three ways, in a mixture of those three ways, the modes of nature. Commonly, they're used interchangeably, the modes of nature and material nature. material nature means with modes, and modes means material nature. So that in the center, there's the three presiding deities of those three modes. And there's Vishnu in the center, and on our left, the forehead, Brahma, he's presiding over the mode of passion, creation. And on our right side, there's Lord Shiva. He's in charge of the principle of destruction. And in the front, the four-armed Vishnu, who's the personality, supreme person, who is in charge of the modes of goodness or maintenance. So creation, destruction, and in between, maintenance. But all three have one source, and that's Krishna's spiritual potency. And Maya has a diluting potency, just like sometimes it's used as example. There's looks like a snake. There, see it's moving? But it's not a snake that's moving, it just appears to be a snake that's moving. So Maya is the appearance of something that's not really that something, it's something else. The classic example is mirage. There is such a thing as water, but it's also a thing that some people see a reflection of the sun on the sand that looks like water. That's a mirage. There is water, and there is sun, and there is sand. But there's no water in a desert, it looks like. So the look like that's Maya, but it's something else. A very nice example of this, many of you are familiar with the nice example of the young gopis in Braja. First of all, they were at the stage of life before puberty. But as young girls would sometimes do, they were already thinking about who their husband would be. And some girls aren't thinking like that, but these girls were. And another thing was they didn't have envy, which is pretty unusual for anybody to not have envy. Just like squeaky clean, no envy. So they, during the coldest month in Vrindavan, they went for a month-long vrata or vow. They went to the Jamuna at the dead of night before the sun came up and took their bath in the freezing cold Jamuna water. Ooh. And along with bathing in that condition, they offered a prayer. We'll hear the prayer in a moment. And they also worshipped the deity of Katyayani, who calls packages wealth. But they have devotion. And so what they did was they fashioned a deity of Katyayani with earth and water, means mud. And then they fashioned like a deity of Katyayani and dressed the deity of Katyayani and made offerings to Katyayani, offered prayers to Katyayani, bowed down before Katyayani, and they all had the same idea. They want Krishna as their husband. Of course, one day when they grow up, but they're already with that idea. They want Krishna as their husband. So Krishna is omniscient, and he knew that they were doing this, because it was a whole month long. And so towards the end of the month, Krishna came. Part of the practice was they would take bath in the freezing cold Jamuna water and leave their clothes by the side, by the river bank. So Krishna went and quickly gathered up all the clothes and climbed up a tree. And when he climbed up the tree, there's the Katyayani deity at the base of the tree. He said, okay, you want me as your husband, you come forward and I'll give you your clothes back. One by one. And you can't cover your private parts, you have to put your arms in the air. And folded palms. And now, in Vedic culture, that's a no-no. I mean, in most cultures, that's a no-no. But in Vedic culture, a woman can be naked before her husband. They wanted Krishna as her husband, so this was his answer. Now later, here's a nice detail. Many of you know, after Krishna left Vrindavan, he went to Mathura. And after he left Mathura, he went to Dwarka. So it's the three residence places: Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka. When Krishna was in Dwarka, he got a distress message from some princesses. "16,100 princesses. The princess means they're the daughters of a king. Princesses were kidnapped by Narakasura. So they pleaded with Krishna, get us out of jail. Narakasura is a mean guy. And who knows, anything could happen. Please rescue us. So Krishna came and he rescued them. There's some details. And now there they are, young girls looking at Krishna like, please marry us. And they said, we can't be married by anybody else because we've already been touched by Narakasura. So please be kind and marry us. Now Jiva Goswami, so Krishna did. He took them back to Dwarka and there was a big marriage. And he made a palace for each one of them, and he expanded himself in each one of the palaces. 16,100 Krishnas. That's a lot of Krishnas. According to Rupa Goswami in his writings, Lalita Madhava, Narakasura lied. It wasn't princesses. It was the gopis of Vrindavan who did this vrata, and Krishna had promised he would marry them, and he married them. Did you know that? Some of you know that. Now you all know that. He lied. I mean, he can kidnap. He can also lie, no problem. And there were 108, so there was 8. That whole description is there in the 10th canto. Each of the 8 marriage queens that he married, this and that and the other thing. And then the 16,100. Because he keeps his promise. Now, our acharyas, when discussing this particular pastime, it's Canto 10, Chapter 22. Here's a nice detail. Each of the young unmarried girls performed her worship while chanting the following mantra. Oh, Goddess Katyayani. Oh, great potency of the Lord. Oh, possessor of great mystic power and mighty controller of all. Please make the son of Nanda Maharaj my husband. I offer my obeisances unto you. Now guess what? They all offered the same prayer. They all knew that she is offering the same prayer that I'm offering. And it's not just, it could be different Krishnas. It's the son of Nanda Maharaj, that one. Please make this arrangement, Katyayani. So the painting is showing a form of Durga. Most of the devotees in the room recognize Durga. For those of you that don't recognize Durga, there she is. She is the external energy or material energy of the Lord, riding on a lion. Don't mess with Durga. And when Krishna, this is in detail. Wow. Krishna Janmashtami is a very nice festival. You've heard of Krishna Janmashtami? Good. Krishna appeared in the prison house of Kamsa. And Krishna requested, his mother and father offered prayers. He said, "Thank you very much. Can you please do this? I'm going to assume a childlike form, little baby form. Please take me out of the prison house of Kamsa. Don't worry, the guards will fall asleep. And don't worry, the locks on the prison door will fall off. Don't worry. And we'll help you cross the river Jamuna. It's a stormy night. No worries. And there's no moonlight because it's a stormy night. No worries, I'm effulgent. No worries. Just take me to the other side of the river Jamuna and place me by the side of Mother Yashoda. So she'll think and she'll raise and train me as if I'm her son." So sometimes Prabhupada would speak of the foster child of Nanda and Jasoda. And there would be a female child by the side of Mother Yashoda. Bring the female child back over on this side to the prison house. What's that deal about? Kamsa is going to think, aha, the 8th child of Devaki has been born. Let me kill the 8th child of Devaki. But when he went to kill the 8th child of Devaki, she slipped out of his hand. It wasn't a male, it was a female. And the female flew into the air in this form of Durga and laughed hideously at Kamsa. "Ah, you fool! The 8th child of Devaki has already taken birth and will kill you." But Krishna had said, after you do all those nice services, then you can spread yourself throughout the land. You'd be known by different names. Durga is known by different names, and one of those different names is Katyayani. So, is it possible for someone to worship Katyayani with the idea I should get a nice husband? Yes. However, if that nice husband is Krishna, then it's not Katyayani, but it's the Yogamaya potency. It's a little subtle, especially for newer people, but I'll do it again. Going back a little bit, before Krishna appeared, there were 6 sons of Devaki that were killed. Kamsa, the murderer, came in and killed her first 6 sons. Child number 7 was Balaram. And while in the womb of Devaki, Krishna called his Yogamaya potency. Yes, some service. What can I do for you? Here's 3 services. 1, take birth as the child of Yashoda. That's 1 service. And when you're born, we'll do a switcheroo. Because I'll be born the same night that you're born. And Vasudev's going to come and exchange you, Yogamaya, for me. So I'll be with Yashoda, and you'll come back here to the prison house of Kamsa. And Kamsa is going to try to come and kill you. But don't worry, by a potency, he can't kill you. And so after that, you'll slip from his hand, you'll terrorize him, and you fool, and then you'll be known throughout the land by different names. So the point is, Yogamaya and Mahamaya can move according to Krishna's will. We'll say it again. The spiritual potency, I just heard in a morning discussion, recording this morning, Prabhupada was speaking in Australia to at a monastery in Australia, the Franciscan monks' monastery, and he was describing this to them. Material can become spiritual. He was using the example of microphone. It's material. And the material microphone can be used by politicians and rock stars and all kinds of people that want to do something material, then it's material. But the same microphone can be used for broadcasting the message of the scripture, and then in the service of the source of the microphone, the service, the source of everything, it takes on a spiritual quality, like iron is iron. But you put an iron rod in fire, it gets warmer. Eventually it becomes fire. Take it out of the fire and touch it to something, dry leaves, it starts a fire, it'll burn. Although it's iron rod, it becomes fire-like. So something used in Krishna service can become spiritualized. So in this way, Mahamaya, Yogamaya, according to the indication of Krishna, and of course how we engage ourselves with Krishna and Krishna's energy, something material can become spiritual. Spiritualized, at least. So that's this Durga. Here's a nice commentary. I'll just read it because it's a little lengthy. According to various acharyas, the goddess Durga, he showed her picture, mentioned in this verse is not the illusory energy of Krishna called Maya, but rather the internal potency of the Lord, known as Yogamaya. The distinction between the internal and external or illusory potency of the Lord is described in Narjapantaratra in the conversation between Shruti and Vidya. Shruti, for our guest here, Shruti means the Vedas, or specifically the Upanishads. Shruti means that which is heard. Vyasa wrote them down, but before they were written down, they were just Shrutis. You learn by hearing. And Vidya means knowledge, or that which the Shrutis convey is Vidya, knowledge. So here's a conversation from Narada Pancharatra, pretty heavy, elevated conversation between Shruti and Vidya. Must have been an interesting conversation, right? Here's a transcript. The Lord's inferior potency, known as Durga, is dedicated to his loving service. Being the Lord's potency, this inferior energy is non-different from him. There's another superior potency whose form is on the same spiritual level as that of God himself. Simply by scientifically understanding the supreme potency, one can immediately achieve the supreme soul of all souls, who is the Lord of all lords. There's no other process to achieve him. That supreme potency of the Lord is known as Gokuleshwari, or Ishwari, the controller of Gokula. That's Krishna's abode. So backwards, the internal potency is the goddess of the spiritual world where Krishna resides. Here, see, Krishna's spiritual potency, his own internal spiritual potency. Her nature is to be completely absorbed in love of God, and through her, one can easily obtain the primeval God, the Lord of all that be. The internal potency of the Lord has a covering potency known as Mahamaya, who rules the material world. In fact, she bewilders the entire universe, and thus everyone within the universe falsely identifies himself with the material body. Mahamaya, Yogamaya. One potency, it's like, Prabhupada gives the example like electricity. The electrician knows how to make electricity make something hot, or electricity make something cold. It's one energy. And by the indication and manipulation of the electrician, cold, hot. Similarly, Krishna is the electrician, or he's the source of electricity. And by his indication, his energy can do this or do that. For him, no problem. And he wants this. He wants persons to be engaged in his loving service and activities. But some people say no, or they say worse than that. And so they get another version, same potency, working in a different way, the Mahamaya potency, diluting potency. There's this nice teaching that's found in Chaitanya Charitamrita that says that Srimati Radharani is the source of all these Shaktis, the internal potencies of the Supreme Lord. And then the author lists them. The goddesses of fortune, Lakshmi, in the Vaikuntha realm, the gopis in the Vrindavan realm, and the queens of Krishna in the Dwarka realm. And of course, Radharani herself, she's the cynosure, she's the center. This is our Vaishnava understanding. So now back to Queen Kunti's prayer. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's paraphrasing. I do not know you, covered by the screen of Maya, beyond the knowledge of the material senses, and unaffected, just like the puppeteer behind the screen moving the puppets is not understood by the eyes of the ignorant. You may see some puppets moving on the stage. Looks like the puppets are moving on the stage, but someone that's not a small child can understand there's a puppeteer pulling strings and the puppet is moving. There's actually a puppet that can play violin. And it's not the puppet that's playing the violin, it's the puppeteer that's playing the violin. So Krishna is doing things through the agency of his potencies. Here's Vishwanath's commentary. Since internally you protected the child in the womb of Uttara, that's the child in the womb of Uttara, we'll tell more about this this evening, protected the child in the womb of Uttara. And externally you protect us by being near us. Should I understand that you are all pervading? I do not know. This is Kunti's words. You are covered by the curtain of Maya. Then Krishna might say, then Maya covers me? And the reply, it is like the fool who thinks that the sun is covered by a cloud. Suns aren't covered by a cloud. I see you as covered because my vision is covered by Maya, because you are beyond sense knowledge. Sense knowledge is situated below you. I do not have the power to contact you, since my knowledge arises from my senses, like the knowledge of a fool. But even if despicable people like me do not know you, there's no loss for you. You remain unaffected by this. So supposing there's heavy clouds, and heavy clouds cover the sun, but the sun isn't covered. It's above. You go in an airplane above the clouds, and it's as bright as anything. Below the clouds, it looks like the sun is covered. So like that, the explanation is, Krishna may say, but you see me directly and praise me. You know that I'm beyond Prakriti. Then why do you criticize yourself, being ignorant? You know all these things, and you're saying that you don't know these things? Though the dancer is endowed with rhythms and dance steps suitable to the rasa, the ignorant spectator, ignorant of the scriptures delineating performance, see only a dancer dancing. Though he sees, he does not really see. Similarly, though I see you, I do not really see you. The word tata, or similarly, should be understood from the context. Though you protect the Pandavas, your devotees, her sons, since you are the soul within us constantly, you personally counteracted a weapon of Ashvatthama meant for killing the Pandavas. Though you promised not to use weapons, you took up a weapon. Though you protect the righteous, you had Bhishma and other righteous persons destroyed. Though you are most affectionate to Draupadi and Subhadra, you let their sons be killed. I do not know what is the truth about your pastimes. This is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. So again, she's pointing out what appears to be contradictory or at least inconceivable, and that inconceivableness is the effect of the curtain of Maya. We can't see because the curtain is in the way. But her understanding is ultimately within him all contradictory understandings and qualities are reconciled. And that's something we just have to get used to. You know, it can kind of like whitewash. It's inconceivable. But it's not just a whitewash. There are potencies of the unlimited that are unlimited. And with his potency, he can move his potencies in ways that look like, to us, they're contradictory. This can't permit that, and if that can't permit this. So it's either one or the other, please. But both, it's contradictory. And those contradictory qualities are reconciled by the inconceivable potencies of Krishna. And Kunti's not a big Vedantist, a big scholar lady. She's a simple lady, but a pure devotee. So she can understand lots of things. We just have to become pure, like Kunti. And then we'll understand things tomorrow that we don't understand today. If Krishna decides to pull back the curtain and say, I'm like this, then you can understand. And that's it for this morning, or midday, 12 o'clock. Nice prayers, huh? And this is just a small section of the wonderful Srimad Bhagavatam. So let's see if there's some discussion. Yes, in the back.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
I got you.
Thank you so much. It was such a wonderful class. Actually, in the end, when you were bringing out the point of how we have to just become pure and understand, just accept. Maharaj, always I had this doubt while reading Kunti Maharani's prayers, what should be our mood while we are reading the prayers, because we cannot imitate those prayers. Going forward, as Kunti Maharani says, let those troubles come to me, because that's when...
Well, you're way ahead of yourself. We're not there yet.
Yeah. So, Maharaj, my question was, like, how...
what should be our mood when reading her prayers?
No. No, Maharaj. How Kunti Maharani is confused as a simple lady, but the end point that you made, that faith is what, and we have to become pure. So Maharaj, my question is that what, as simple ladies, we should aim for?
Not just simple ladies, simple Prabhus. Prabhupada's statement, Krishna consciousness is simple for the simple and difficult for the crooked. So that's his statement. So what's the difference between simple and crooked? Simple just means simple. Doesn't mean doesn't mean dull. Just means simple. Simple heart. Now, life is complex. Whew. But one has a simple heart, can navigate their way through complexity, as Kunti does, through the guiding hand and the protection of Krishna. Supposing something perplexing or something hurtful or some calamity, something awful, and when if that happens, your remembrance of Krishna goes on vacation. It shuts down, and you just get caught up in the complexity or the hurtful or the pain or the circumstance. That's Maya. I mean, that's the curtain of Maya, the deluding potency. So the simple, even when things are complex, their heart remains simple. And that's Kunti. I mean, simple doesn't mean dull. She understands things that the most learned people don't understand because of her using, I'm using the word simple, or her devoted heart. She's attached to the source of all knowledge, among other things. So she has everything she needs to know. And then maybe some things she doesn't know, and that's okay. When she needs to know, she'll know, because the source of all things will give her that understanding. So we're going through, we're not Queen Kunti, far from it. We're little people. And we're navigating our way through life that's filled with duality and complexity and good fortune, ill fortune, and good mix of, jumbled up. Now, what are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to be? How are we supposed to look at Queen Kunti, and what's the lesson we're going to learn from Queen Kunti, which I think is what you're asking. How do we be Kunti-like but not imitate? The starting point, if you remember back, humility. And there's lots of things that humility doesn't mean, but we'll just say what it does mean. I'm very tiny, and I'm the servant of the very great. And the very great is very kind, and I'll always be protected. I mean, the willingness of the great is to give protection, just love. The loving parent looks after the child doesn't have to ask. They can ask, that's no harm, but they don't have to ask, because the loving parent is looking after the child because of that love, because the love of the parent to the child. Even if the child is being a little wild or rebellious or something, it doesn't stop the love. And how the behavior from the parent to the child, there may be discipline depending upon what's going on, but if it's a loving parent, it's done lovingly. And there is such a thing as loving discipline for the well-being of the person. It's not like, I'm going to get you because you did something bad. That's not love. That's power struggle. So when there's love, the powerful person is lovingly giving what's needed, whatever is needed, and perfectly knowing, because he's not only all powerful, he's all knowing. So just simple means, and humble means, that's my rightful position. I'm very tiny. The Supreme is unlimitedly great. I'm meant for the service to the unlimitedly great. And I can't just negotiate with the Supreme Great. I'll do this provided you do that. Please. No, that's business. So without the business relationship, the simple doesn't need to do business, because they know that they're protected. Their well-being is in the hand of the all-powerful, loving person. And all they need to do is lovingly serve. Last weekend, we were in central New Jersey, and there was a japa retreat. You heard about it? Okay. Nice japa retreat. And there was a co-presenter with me. His name is Shyamasundar Prabhu. Shyamasundar Prabhu, disciple of Tamal Krishna Maharaj, used to be the temple president in Houston and built it up to a wonderful place. And then he turned it over to somebody else, and now he does japa retreats. Or does, like yesterday was Moksha Ekadasi. So he, with all the people that are part of his little group, and little group, it means a big group, from 8 o'clock p.m. until 8 o'clock this morning, Central Time, they were chanting japa in a Zoom call. It wasn't a japa retreat, it's just Sham Sundar. So when he came to this japa retreat, he had these little wristbands made. A pink one and a green one. I think the pink ones were the ladies. Love pink. And the imprint on the wristband was, I belong to Krishna. And that was part of, a big part of his message, and it's his meditation. So when you belong to Krishna, that's simple. That's who I am. I'm his, and he's mine. And I belong to him. Not like he belongs to me, I put him in my pocket, walk down the street. He's my property. But my relationship is my everything. And that's simple. And when you have that wired, and it's an unbroken wire, it's not, everything material can break, but that doesn't break because that's eternal. And that's simple and humble. And I don't have to be, a big, powerful dude. I don't have to be macho or anything. I just be humble as a servant. Now, humble doesn't mean I can't do something that's required when it's required, something that's strong. But it's in the mood of humble service to the Supreme Great and not otherwise. So that's simplicity and humility. These are spiritual qualities. Now, there are material qualities that just resemble the spiritual qualities, but they're spiritual qualities. And Kunti's got it. So what can you and I do to model ourselves after her without imitating? Because we're not. Just look up and go, wow. What doesn't she understand? One of the first things she does understand is what humility is. It's just, again, I mean, there's their emotions are contradictory, and the whole picture is contradictory. She's the ant. Krishna comes and greets her every morning, bows before her, and touches her feet. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead coming to touch my feet. It's conflicting. But that's him. And she can't say no, no, no. Because it's something he wants. It's his happiness. But it's conflicting her own emotions. She just lives with conflicted emotions. But when she gets the opportunity, she says it all. You're the Supreme, you're the source of everything. And no one knows you, myself included. No, does she not know him? She knows him. It's clear and you continue with the rest. She understands all kinds of things that learned scholars don't understand. How does she understand what others they can't understand? Because of her devotion and her simplicity and humility. Krishna reveals things to her that other people he may reveal and they wouldn't even see it because they don't have the capacity, because they've got a curtain separating them from Krishna. Even if he says, I'm like this, they won't get it. They'll say, no, it's not this, it's that, or something. So, does that address your question?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
It's nice to have heroes, spiritual heroes. There's going to be a hero because that's the way life is. Yad yad acharati shrestha tate ebeta rojana. The people in general have heroes. Bhagavad Gita. And they look up to those heroes and go, wow. So we look up to Kunti. Doesn't matter female, male. We look up to Kunti. And what do we see in Kunti? And so she's exhibiting what's inside. We go, wow, let me be like that. Let me offer regard and respect and homage to Kunti, which is what we're doing in this session together. I mean, your question itself is part of that honoring Kunti, so that a little bit of what she's like can go inside us, just by sound.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Anything else?
Guru, my question is a little bit follow up of what we were discussing in this answer. This is about the protection aspect of the Lord. That when we are hearing that we are easily covered by illusion,
Yeah.
and when there is this sense of the fear overpowering and not being able to access that faith that Krishna is our protector, what can some things we can do at our stage to strengthen that conviction or that faith that Krishna is our protector, no matter what we do and where we are?
Srimad Bhagavatam. Discuss sadhu sangha, hearing and discussing, that's what we're doing right now, hearing and discussing topics in relation to Bhagavan, which is what the Bhagavatam is, and the association of sadhus. We hear from, discuss with, katayan chamam nityam tushanti cha ramanti cha. We do those things, and the covering can be the potential, the potency is there for those coverings of forgetfulness to be removed, or the sense of distance from our protector can be diminished. He is the Supreme Powerful. By associating with the Supreme Powerful, we get some strength. When we're not feeling strength. And take the association of others that have more strength than you or I or the next one, and just be with those persons, and you'll get a sense of how strong they are, and you can borrow strength. They'll be happy to give strength to you. Sadhu Sangha. And wisdom, and nourish your faith, which means remove the obstacles. Now, it's not a guarantee, but what are some of the options is your question. For some people, so I gave 2 of the 5 most potent things, Srimad Bhagavatam and Vaishnava Seva. And then just chanting the holy name. For the simple, that's a connection. For those that aren't simple, it's, I don't get anything from it or something. But those are things that are recommended in any condition. To do the 2 main things that happen, it's not just but being unable to access that place of feeling protection. It's the whole covering thing. The covering becomes reduced, and the original consciousness becomes restored in different ways for different people at different times. So it's not always the same. It's always different. That's okay. And we learn as we advance in spiritual life to accept the arrangement that Krishna makes for me. And it's not in my hand. I can't stamp my little foot and say, you didn't do it the right way. You should do it this way instead of that way. Just acceptance of the arrangements that Krishna has available for us for taking shelter, and thus the sense of protection. Be with those who are, they know that they're protected and they live their life that way, and it becomes easier for you and me to do the same. Sadhu Sangha. Bhajana Kriya. Anartha Nivritti. In sequence, however long it takes, that's how long it takes. And faithfully move on that path. Because there's light. And over here is darkness. And I don't like the darkness. I may not be so strong. That's okay. There's some light. Go for it. Then you follow the means given by those that are carrying that light, and slowly, slowly. Anything else? Yes. Microphone, pass it forward.
Krishna, thank you for your class today. I was thinking about the Mahamaya and the Yogamaya. It's like definitely something I'm interested in understanding.
You want to hear some more about it?
Yes, please.
A real easy way. I'll do it, easy, medium, and more complicated. Easy way is the electricity example. One energy, electricity. And that one energy can be used to make things hot, make things cold. It's one energy. Similarly, Krishna has his potency, his energy. And he can engage his potency this way, same potency, engaged that way. One serves to make one access him directly. That's the Yogamaya potency, or the internal potency, or spiritual potency. She, that spiritual potency, gives us access to him that otherwise you don't have. And then that same potency, the living entity desiring Krishna's presence and loving exchange, that's very nice. Here you go. And someone else says, no, I'm out of here. I don't want that. I want to enjoy separately. Okay, here's the diluting potency. And it's not arbitrary. It's in reciprocation with the proper or improper exercise of free will. Like a government, or like parents and children. Government's like, hey, I got a great idea. What's that? Let's build a city, and first thing, let's build a prison. But they may build a prison because there are going to be people that make a mess with people that are law-abiding. You can't just put them out of existence. You give them a place, a prison. So that's this place, the prison of Mahamaya. And for the rebellious people, entities that don't give a hoot about natural loving dealings. It's all about me. And I make the rules. So that's Mahamaya. But it's the same, the government potency is one potency. There's different departments. Or parents. If parents have several children, and one child, at least on occasion, misbehaves, they may go like this, finger wagging, or make something. But then if it just gets really dangerous, for them or for others or combination, they may so but it's not, if it's loving parents, then it's not to give harm or hurt, it's to protect. So allow the living entity a place to be where they can think of themselves as separate enjoyers. That's Mahamaya's program. Conducting the affairs of living entities. It's an energy. We're being moved on the machine of the material energy. Yantarudhani Mayaya from Bhagavad Gita. The material energy is like a machine, and we're just moving on the machine, some in different modes of nature, and sometimes liking the ride and sometimes not liking the ride. But we're on a machine. And then there's another spiritual potency, and that's awarded to those who want to be in their relationship with Krishna, and that's all they're interested in. Then there's, generally speaking, there's something of a mix. So then it's mixed devotion. That's where most of us are, the mixed devotion zone. But Krishna's inviting us and giving us, sending representatives and etc., giving us nice prasadam and giving us encouragement to move in the spiritual potency direction. But we're making choices, so that the different energies are there according to the choices we make. It's not arbitrary, not whimsical. On Krishna's side, he's reciprocating like a loving parent. A loving parent, not just a disciplinarian parent, a loving parent. It's not a nice place. Prisons aren't nice places. So we can whine and complain, this isn't a nice place. Why did God make a mess? Because we wanted it. He gave us another choice. He's encouraging us this other choice. Anyway, so that's the difference. From a loving, supreme source of all energies. And his energy can work this way or that way. Everything depends upon our proper or misuse of free will. And then it goes this way or that way or mix. So therefore we're called marginal. We're in between this and that. And with the direction our free will is going in the direction of, and that's also changing sometimes, and then sometimes we're not steady. And Krishna has to be flexible. He is flexible. According to our disposition, he reciprocates. And he does through his agency of his energies. And ultimately, it's him. You have something? Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, I was trying to relate with the position or with the situation that Kunti Maharani is in. Like, typically I've observed, like when I'm in difficulty, it's easier to go to Krishna, of course, because with the intelligence that he provides, remember him. The prayers become more of, like, at times, like, okay, I want this Krishna, if you wish, like, can you please give it? If I get it, great. The faith increases. Nice. But if I don't get it,
then what happens?
Then
you go on strike.
At least internally, don't want to make it like explicit, but internally that's what happens. So like the last part which you were mentioning, where like Kunti Maharani was mentioning about how Krishna is inconceivable, because like he has sees Draupadi ji and Subhadra ji as his sisters, but still the 5 Pandavas.
Yeah.
I mean, their sons, essentially. He didn't save them. So I was just wondering, I was just kind of relating it with my thought process, and I was just wondering if you could talk something about it. So
one way to respond to what you're saying is, what's the standard of happiness, or what's the standard of good fortune, ill fortune? And there's a material and there's a spiritual perspective on those two questions, or questions like those questions. The difficulty comes is when we look at the spiritual as if it's material, or the lens is the material lens, looking at something that's not material. And we'll see material because that's the lens we're looking through, even if it's spiritual. Take the deity or the holy name or the scripture or the spiritual master or anything, the holy Dham. It can be looked at through a material lens, and that's what you're going to see. So then, to understand that which isn't of the material realm through the lens of the material lens, one will not get a proper understanding. So then, what's the option here? Step back with humility, recognize I really don't know. I mean, I think I know, but the higher sense, I know that I don't know. And I want to know. So how it depends on, this is free will, depends on how much you want to know. And then you can be given the means to know. It's called bhakti. And you can't know by other means. You can't do it by being smart or get a PhD in something or something. Get rich or get something. Then you can understand. Or the other way, become a mendicant, then you can understand. So there's no material requirement. It's just, again, this point of humility and simplicity. And wishing to be in service to the one who knows. Because I want to know, and I know that they know. Or at least I have faith that they know. And that there are many, many persons, great authorities before me, they've accepted they know. So I'm having confidence in those many, many, many great authorities. So let me place my trust or faith. It's a free will choice. We don't have to, but if we make that free will choice, then it's moving towards the light. And when you move towards the light, then objects that you couldn't see in darkness, you can start to see. What to speak of the source of the light and the different features of the source of the light.
Thank you, Maharaj.
That's kind of poetic language, but it's also affective language with connecting those feelings of devotion with service. Practical, along with the feeling. And you do that, you strive like that consistently, and the coverings become removed, little. Bhakti Siddhanta's language is effaced. You know what that means? Effaced? Like coins that rub together, and eventually the image that was printed on that coin, you can't see it anymore because it got effaced. So the identification with the temporary becomes effaced. And as that becomes effaced or reduced or diminished and eventually gone, what's left? The coin or reality. And then I can start to understand more about what reality of everything. My own emotions, what's behind them, And everything, as the sun rises, everything becomes illumined, and you can see things you couldn't see before. In the Upanishad language, like pots and plates, you can start to see things for what they are instead of not. In their relationship with the source, those things start to become revealed. It's just your consciousness. There's a shift of consciousness, and therefore your experience of life is different. Life is what it is, but your experience of it is different because of the shift in consciousness. That's our life. That's the path that we're on. That's the path of devotion. And as the light is like a dimmer switch, it gets brighter, brighter, brighter. You can see more and more and more. And there may be bumps in the road before getting there. And that becomes an issue. Like, how do I deal with the bumps in the road when they come? And there's different free will choices we can make when there's a bump in the road. Just focus on controlling the circumstance better, so the bump doesn't make you vomit or get into a crash or something. And just get solution oriented, problem solution, material life. And somehow the remembrance of Krishna went away. So how to remain in remembrance of Krishna even when you're going through bumps in the road? It's where your attachments are. And that's Queen Kunti. Through all these, all the ordeals, as you mentioned, this and that, her mind didn't flinch. It, in fact, strengthened her shelter taking in the sense of seeking the protection of Krishna in all circumstances. It's going to come up some more. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
I came here from Connecticut and they sent me with some Mahaprasad.